Welcome back to Miss Eddie's Math Movies, where it's a cute to be a square. Today we are learning section 2.3, which is complements and supplements. In order to talk about complements and supplements, we need to know what they mean. So these two are essentially the same. This is the adjective, and this is the noun, if you remember from English class. So to be a complement, or complementary angles, are two angles that add to be 90. Or they add to be a right angle. And how I remember complement versus supplement is that when you're right, you get a complement. Supplementary angles are two angles that add to be 180 degrees, or a straight angle. Once again, this is the adjective, and this is the noun. So, for example, complements, two angles that add to be 90 could be 80 degrees and 10 degrees. A supplement could be 120 degrees and 60 degrees because they add to be 180, and 80 and 10 add to be 90. That's the difference between complements and supplements. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a vertex and a side, but do not overlap. All right, here is an example. Here's one angle in purple, and here's another angle in green. So here's the green angle, here's the purple angle. They share this vertex right here, and they share this side, but they're not overlapping, they're adjacent. So I want you to kind of think of as adjacent as meaning next to. You may have heard this word in your regular life before. Angles that are next to each other. A theorem is a true statement that follows from other true statements. It's another fancy word for a rule. But we can prove this one. But this is just a rule. And we're going to learn, I think, a couple theorems today. A couple more rules to add to what we already know. So remembering the difference between complementary and supplementary. So I always think you get a complement when you are right. And that's 90 degrees. Notice spelled a little bit different, but it sounds the same. Or another way I've heard a good is remembering is complementary corner, because in a corner there's 90 degrees, and supplementary side, because there's 180 degrees in the side. Or maybe supplementary straight, because straight has 180 degrees in it. Those are ways that help me remember the difference between complementary and supplementary. So let's do some examples. State whether the angles are complementary, so they add to be 90, or supplementary, which means they add to be 180, or neither. So 22 and 158. Well, 22 plus 158 is 180. So that is supplementary. 15 plus 85 is 100. That's not complementary, not supplementary, that's neither. 55 and 35 add to be 90. So they are complementary. These are numbers we use a lot, right? Right angles and straight angles. That's why that's a special word for 90 and a special word for 180. Now we're talking about adjacent. Adjacent means next to. but not overlapping. So if we look at 1 and 2, well, they're not next to each other. They're not sharing a vertex. And they're not sharing a side. So they are non-adjacent. All right, in letter B, they're sharing a vertex and they're sharing a side. A vertex is just elbow and they share a side, so that means they are adjacent. Angles 5 and 6 here are sharing a vertex, but they're not sharing a side. 5 has these two sides and 6 has these two sides, and they don't ever overlap. They share a common vertex, but not a common side. Therefore, they are non-adjacent. So hopefully you understand the difference between adjacent and non-adjacent now. A is a complement of C. So that means together they make 90. If A is 47, how big is C? Well, together they have to make 90. So you're asking yourself, 47 and what make 90? 47 plus what equals 90? So then you're going to subtract 47 from both sides. So 90 minus 47 is 43. Angle C is 43. Now we hear that P and R are supplements. I know that means 180. So together, P and R equal 180. R is 36. So how many more degrees do I need to get to 180? Well, I subtract 36 from 180, and I get 144. Angle P is 144 degrees. All right, now you get to try. You're going to state whether these angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So do they add to 90? Do they add to 180? Or neither? And then down here, B and D have to make 90. So you need to figure out what B is. And G and H make 180. You need to figure out what H is. I want you to do 1 through 5 now. And we'll go over those in class. All right, here's our first theorem. It's a rule that we can prove. If two angles are complementary to the same angle, then they are blank. Well, I want you to think about the circle activity that we did today. We had angle 1, and we noticed that angle 1 and angle 5 made a right angle. Notice that together they're making this corner. And then I asked you to find another angle that made a right angle with 1. So you took away 5 and you put 2 in its spot. 1 and 2 also make a right angle. So then I asked you, well, what do you notice then about 2 and 5? Well, 2 and 5 are exactly the same. So if two angles are complementary to the same angle, just like 2 and 5 are both complementary to 1, 2 and 5 are both complementary to 1, that means that 2 and 5 have to be the same. They are congruent. So in our example, 1 and 2 make 90 and 2 and 3 make 90. Well, you see 2 in both. So 2 stays the same in both equations. That means that 1 and 3 have to be the same, and you can kind of see that from this picture. 1 and 3 have to be the same. We did something similar with supplementary angles. So we took angle 1 and put it along the side. We said, okay, what makes 180 with 1? And you put 3 here. And I said, well, what other angle? Well, or you could use 4. Notice 4 also makes 180. So 3 and 4 have to be congruent. That's the congruent supplement theorem. So if you look here, you see 5 in each equation. 4 and 5 make 180, 5 and 6 make 180. That means these two have to be the same, 4 and 6. And you can see that from your picture. 4 and 6 are identical. So let's see here. 7 and 8 are supplementary, and 8 and 9 are supplementary. So I see 8 in both of those. That means 7 and 9 have to be equal because they're both supplementary to angle 8. So from the congruent supplement theorem, 7 and 9 have to be congruent, and that looks correct from our picture. So down here, you need to tell me which angles are congruent. Do this now, and we will check it in class. That wraps it up. This is M Cubed signing out.